Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's matches here at GLL Nations Royale. I'm Toby, joined by Saint, and we have got a lot of PUBG coming your way today. So if you don't know what you're going to be spending this evening on, well, now you do, because there's going to be multiple hours of entertainment coming your way. And first off, we are going to start out with Turkey versus Ukraine, Saint, and both these teams, they're pretty damn scary. I got to hear from you. Who's your thought on who could go out on top on that one?
Well, I mean, Turkey are back-to-back Nations Royale champions now. I don't think they've lost a map in 2 seasons, which is a testament to how incredible they are. But Ukraine coming into this, I think when we came into this tournament, they were the team for me that could challenge. We've seen Ukrainian players do so well recently at the professional level with their Northern Lights team. So that core, I think, is going to turn this into a really exciting and really close affair that could go all the way to that 5th map. For
sure. Couldn't agree more. It's going to be fun to see also. I mean, it's 2 teams who play different styles of PUBG. For those of you guys who might be new to watching this, I'm not just talking about are you more of an aggressive, more passive team. No, this is not your usual PUBG tournament. This is 32 versus 32 action. And there's a lot that goes into planning your strategy, and I can't really tell who's going to be the victor. To be fair, it's 2 very evenly matched teams. So let's take a look at the bracket while waiting for the game 1 to get started. You can see here what all these guys have made their way through to get here. Turkey beat Finland. They beat Russia.
Oof. Yeah, that's. I think you have to say Turkey's had a slightly more difficult run to get here, but it's not to say that Ukraine's had it easy. I mean, Portugal we've seen historically do quite well. Nations Royale. Germany as a region is stacked, so both teams have really fought their way to get to this level. I mean, if you look at those semi-finals, Netherlands, Russia, 2 really strong regions of their own. And we saw that Ukraine match, actually, which I think Ukraine pretty much dominated in the end. So I'm really excited to see this, because this is the best of the best right here. I think this is probably going to be the rematch in the grand final, because it is worth pointing out that whoever loses tonight doesn't go out of the tournament. They go down to that lower bracket where they get one more chance, which we will see later on, versus whoever survives out of the teams left.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to make things pretty damn interesting once we do get to that point. It's I honestly don't really know. It's going to be so damn difficult to tell who's going to come out on top. You can see here the lower bracket teams, as you were saying, you don't get eliminated just because you lose that one match in the upper bracket. Russia, Hungary, and Netherlands, Finland are going up against one another today. That's going to be 2 great matches as well.
Yeah, and that Russia-Hungary match is a rematch, if I remember correctly. We saw that happen earlier on, but this is how today and tomorrow is going to break down. We're going to be watching Turkey-Ukraine, and I believe we're going to be watching the winners of the 2 lower bracket games going down right now later on. So there's going to be a lot of PUBG action coming our way.
Yeah, and the winner of that match will be going up against the loser of the Turkey versus Ukraine match, and whoever wins that match will be going into the finals. So there's still ways for, I want to say, all the teams, to be fair, to make their way into the finals, but it's going to be tough. I mean, we've seen the comebacks, we've seen the upsets, we've seen everything happen, really. And I must say, I mean, I just talked about it, but I cannot really put my finger on who's going to go out on top in this match with Ukraine and Turkey. They've both had games where you thought, okay, they're going to win it, but it's not going to be a slaughter. Then they've 3-0. I mean, Turkey 3-0'd Russia, right? Russia, we were thinking that's literally going to be the team, if not Turkey, to win the tournament. And now we didn't see the match and how it went down, but 3-0ing a team that has done nothing but 0ing their opponents. That speaks for itself.
And I think once you get to this level, we have 6 teams left. All of these teams have proven their worth, proven how good they are in this matchup. So I think now it's all about that early game where if you get that early advantage, your 4-man advantage, coming into, let's say, your phase 3, phase 4, I think all of these teams now are capable of taking that and turning it into a victory.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think it's going to... I can't really tell if map picks are going to have any impact. You can see down below the teams have already done their vetoes. Is there going to be Erangel, Miramar, Sanok, Vikendi, and then Erangel should go into all 5 maps? But I can't really tell. I mean, having seen both these teams play, I haven't really seen them weak on a map yet. Neither of the 2 teams. So I can't really put my finger on which one team would have the upper hand in any given map in particular.
The only thing I can think of is Sanok for Ukraine, because we saw last week with the Netherlands beating them now, which for me was a real big surprise, because Sanok is the sort of gunfight map. It's the map where your gun skill wins you that match, because pretty much you can get your whole team to like phase 4, and then you just have this massive gunfight between pretty much 30 versus 30 at least to get the win. So I was really surprised that Ukraine lost that game, and I'm wondering maybe if there is a chink in the armor for the Ukrainian team, if it's there, and that maybe they need to win on the more traditional maps of Erangel and Miramar, taking map 1, 2, and 5 if they want to win this series.
Yeah, maybe that's what they're gonna have to do. It's could you imagine a world where either of the two teams 3-0 their opponent in this one? And if so, who would do it? And if so, who would do it?
I think Turkey, based off what we've seen in the past, we go back to season 2 of Nations Royale. Turkey didn't lose a map. Even in the grand final, they won 4-0. So if there's any team that can just smoke an opponent 3-0, it's that Turkish roster.
I'm just thinking, what is it that makes Turkey that much better than anyone else? I personally want to put it on communication, because they seem like they always kind of know what each other are doing. But what's your pros and cons of the Turkish roster?
I think if you look at the best regions of Nations Royale, places like Ukraine, Russia, Netherlands, they have this core of about 8, maybe 10 players that are really good. Like, when I say really good, I mean like tier 1 good, up at playing a professional PUBG. You look at Turkey and you look at how many players on that roster have played at an international level. How many of those players have made it to PCS, made it to Pro League last time? The sheer, I think, standard across the entire Turkish roster means that every player can have an impact on every map. And it means you don't need to rely on that 10-man core to win your game. So I think realistically, it's the fact that they're such a great team rather than such great individuals.
Yeah, that I can only agree with. We've seen other teams like Finland and so on who have, as well, really, really high tier individual talent. They just can't seem to really get use of it in the proper way. We've seen other teams where, we have all these 8 players. They'll go on their platoon together because they are like the kill squad. But if then they're the first ones to get found by the opponents, yes, you're good. But if you're 8 versus 32, you're not going to win it. Now, speaking of players on teams, let's take a look at the two rosters here. Ukraine and Turkey. And I like how they've changed colors. Do you remember us complimenting them for having the correct colors?
Switched around.
It seems like the observers has debated us. Either way, let's look at Turkey over on the left side. A lot of Besiktas players, DA players. That's pretty damn stacked. Wildcats is well represented.
I think you've got maybe 5 or 6 teams worth of players on that Turkish roster that have all competed at the top level in Europe. So I think that's a testament to you've got Istanbul Wildcats, Blaze, DA, Etiquette, Besiktas. All of those names you've seen for so long. Not necessarily the top of PUBG, but in and around that region. As you look at Ukraine, you've got the Northern Lights team, right? They are the powerhouse of Ukraine. They're the core of this team that makes it so good. And we've seen them, I think, they won, right? They won.
They literally just won.
They smoked PCS, They were incredible in that. But you also have those Unity players. There is that core. And I think it is more than 10 for Ukraine. I think that was the problem we had with Finland, as you said, where they had, 8, maybe 10 players that were great, but the rest of them were just, not to say bad, but not quite as good. Whereas, you look at Ukraine, at least half of that team has had pretty high level competitive experience.
Yeah, true. It's looking at these two sets of 32, I would also, off of this alone, put my money on Turkey. Just, as you say, yes, they might not have all the. There are some. Don't get me wrong. There are some amazingly talented players, but it mainly consists of, let's say, if not God tier, then tier 1 and tier 2. But I would much rather have 20 tier 1 and tier 2 players than I'd have 5 God tier players, right? So I completely agree with you in saying that the mass is better than the few, so to speak.
We're finally headed into the game, which I'm a little bit excited about. We can start on Erangel, and we can see the Turkish team have generally gone for the center of the map. Ukraine seems to be favoring those edges. I expect they'll send a couple to Military Island, or at least take control of both bridges, which means that you do get that shift. If you go back to the Hungary versus Poland match we saw in the opening series of Nations Royale, if you have those few players on the island, it is so strong. So maybe there's a bit of a chink in the armor for Turkey if they can't get control of one bridge, but they do have that core around the Eastern Bridge, so they should be okay.
We've been talking about this kind of throughout the progress of this tournament. It's so funny to me how from season to season the kind of drop meta changes. There was a long time where it was one team goes to the east, one team goes to the west, or one team goes, oh my lord, one team goes north, one team goes south. And I should just add, now that we see the circle, we're not playing super settings. The circle settings are different. As you can see, circle 1 is quite a bit smaller than your normal competitive circle 1 would be. And also it closes in much earlier. So teams do not have that much time to get looted. And the racing that's on the map now, I don't think we're looking to end the game there. But
I think technically it's possible. In Nations Royale.
Theoretically, yeah.
Not that it will.
So there's no circle pulls away from the water, as far as I know. So
imagine that.
It should be easy enough.
I don't see it ever happening.
But no, probably not ever going to happen. But it could be pretty interesting. Having said that, I mean, as you can see, Ukraine, the only team of the two with players actually inside the circle. Will that come to be a benefit for them? I'm not sure. We've seen before, especially Turkey, they don't really always care too much whether they're inside the circle or not. They'll just push to wherever they feel like the position they want to take is, and then just go claim it.
Yeah, and sometimes having the center of the map can be a bit of a false sense of security because you start to spread out. You pick maybe 6 or 7 positions to spread your team around to take control. And then the other team just hits 32 players on one spot and just, suddenly wipes out, 6 or 7 of your players. You've got a massive disadvantage, and then you have to try and salvage the game. So I'm a little bit skeptical of the strength of taking those early positions, over whether that's actually that important in Nations Royale. I think playing as a team, which Turkey does so well, just taking those gunfights where you're at an advantage. I think that is really the way you win. And I don't think there's going to be, at least on this circle, I don't think having the center is that important.
Nah, I wouldn't think so either. It's at least from what we've been used to seeing previously, it's going to come down to where will that final battle take place. We don't normally see small skirmishes that then end and start again. I mean, it's whenever, unless if it's a player that's been completely isolated from his or her teammates, whenever we see the first couple of knocks come in, that's normally when the fight's about to happen. I mean, we do get the off chance of a scout getting taken out far away from everyone else, but I feel like with this circle, there's so much open terrain that it's going to be hard to find like the better position, because you kind of want to sheep herd your opponent into where you want them to play from.
Yeah, and I think the successful teams are the ones who recognize that they have to take that fight. Some teams like to back off from it, like to reposition, sort of try and prevent the push from actually engaging a gunfight. I think we saw it with the Netherlands against Ukraine last week, where every time the Ukraine tried to hit them in a spot, they tried to back off. They lost 1 or 2 players and said, let's fight another day. And Ukraine just kept hitting them every time. They just kept picking off, 2 here, 3 there, pushing their man advantage in their favor. And then they got to a point where the Netherlands had to take a gunfight at a disadvantage and just lost it. So I think the team that does well is the team that's going to recognize, at least on Erangel and Miramar, when they need to take that gunfight and to just fully commit to it.
I think that's at least that's kind of been the lesson, right? That most teams have learned, that if you don't have the overview, if you don't have the kind of excess of communication abilities and really know full on what the opponent is doing, then you'll most likely lose if you try to go full like split and Navy SEAL mode. Whereas to the ones that just go me kill, me smash, they tend to, at least from terms of a communications perspective, get the upper hand.
And I think as well, we've seen the strength of high ground, on especially on Erangel and Miramar, which tend to play out very similarly. Rather than taking the center of the circle, you take the positions where you can control a big area around you. You can have a lot of presence on the map, I think is the best way to put it. These compounds, I think, are a great example, where essentially anyone on the hills around you, you can shoot at. You can shoot down on them, deny the cover from the rocks, from the little ridges. But also on this eastern side around Stauber, on the edge of the big mountain, which I think Turkey is going to favor here. Both positions are really strong in terms of the presence you can have on the map from them. And also it allows you to start picking off those players. Let's say one guy runs out in the open down this hill, and then you've got 10 people up on the hill next to him. They can just light him up and kill him. So if you can take those high ground positions and then use them to try and take a 3-4 man advantage, that's when I think you're playing strategically the best, and that's when you can force the other team into a disadvantaged gunfight, because they're starting to lose those players.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's see. The circle is moving in. Of course, it's only phase 1, so it's not going to do all that much damage. But we have kind of found our divide, our at least for now, our center position for where these two teams will work around, and it seems to be just on the eastern side of Severny. Now, is that a good place to fight? It probably didn't used to be, but they have added the little military fortification, which you can see is kind of in between the two teams. And I mean, if it goes east here, I wouldn't even expect to see Turkey move. They'd kind of just stick around and try to lure the Ukrainians into a trap. Whereas if it goes west, Turkey would literally have to drive wide out into the open. Oh, well, I mean, it could also just center.
But just let them all.
It could also just let them all stay. But with the next circle, I mean, if it goes hard west now, I'm just waiting to see Turkey do that spearhead 30 people crashing one compound type play.
Yeah, and I think we've got a bit of a gunfight going down for the scrapyard compound here.
Might as well get it early. It's like playing Monopoly. There are the people who like to save up money and do nothing for the first couple of rounds, and then you have the play style where you just buy everything you can when you start off with. This is what Ukraine is trying to do right now. We need all of it. We need all of it. But Turkey is saying, "No, come on, man, you can't have them all. We need
This needs a great."
Get blew up a vehicle and he gets 2 kills with it. Make that 3. A lot of kills coming in now in favor of the Turkish team.
Spyro now in a really rough position. One of the powerhouse players on this team should get shut down pretty quickly. Their Fendelos gets him down easy as you like. Puts a few bullets in his body to make sure he knows. Oh, I think he knows, but it's 7-man advantage now already for Turkey. That's a big start to the game.
That is a tough start, and that's what I was saying. The spearhead, I mean, it worked out, right? You send in X amount of vehicles, and there's just nothing they can do. And even though you have 16 billion DMRs up on the hilltop, there's just only so many angles you can work with. And when you have so many teammates both around you, but also in that compound already, you're blocking your vision so many times where you can't really be full-on effective.
Now, I think it's a great example of Turkey where they almost overcommit to specific moves. You know, they recognize. Let's say there's 4 or 5 players in that compound, and they think, let's send, I think most teams would say, let's send 1 or 2 men extra. Let's send 7 maybe. Let's go do it. Turkey will just send 10 at you. They'll just overwhelm you with overwhelming firepower with the best players in their team as well. You mean you look at that etiquette, DA there. There's a lot of power in those players, and the fact that they just go for those overwhelming 2v1 gunfights and to just take those early man advantages. Means that they're always going into this phase, going into phase 4s, phase 5s, with that advantage, going in with the upper hand.
And it's massive for them to get this spot too, because, I mean, as we were talking about before, had Ukraine been allowed to not only get there and get those compounds, but also kind of get set up and get ready for whatever engagements were about to come. I wonder how far that bike will roll down the hill. And rolling.
And the Dacia.
As well.
That's rough.
Yeah. Oh, the bike stopped. That's something. But the Dacia is... that's surprisingly slow for a hill with that decline. Either way, the fact that they got that compound is pretty huge, because with the next circle, should it go west, they would have had nowhere to play.
Yeah, and then they would have had to commit to a gunfight where they're massively at a disadvantage. And I think there's also with there's a lot of synergy you have with Scrapyard and the compounds that Ukraine already has control of on this northern side, because you then have the high ground and the low ground. So if you try to crash one compound, you get shot by the other one, right? So the fact that they've been able to stop them from getting so much presence and so much control over the center of the area is, I think, vital. And I think now you have to say Turkey's in a bit of a driving seat this match.
Yeah, I mean, with the player lead already, with them kind of being able to swamp the opponents, you can see 10,000 days barely even gets the AOG and AWM out before he starts hitting kills with them. It's
Snake getting kills. He's not hit a bullet for about a year. There we go.
It's gonna be difficult for Ukraine to bounce back. They would need a combination of some really favorable circles and a lot of Turkish players to maybe go 4 guys in 1 car to get like multi kills in that way in order to turn this around. I feel like.
Yeah, no, the only other option is that you sort of find a group of maybe 6-7 Turkish players and you just smack them. You just send your main players, your big names, in a bit of an overwhelming force towards that area of the map, and try and just take that gunfight and pray the rest of the team doesn't move in behind and shut you down. Because realistically, the longer this game goes on with a man advantage like this, the bigger the man advantage will grow, the less control Ukraine will have. And we see here now how much control of the map Turkey has.
And there it goes.
That's a little bit rough, Ukraine. There is a bit of a caveat in the fact that Turkey is really spread out. So there's an opportunity here that maybe the Ukrainians could shut down this sort of northwestern group here. We've got 4 players that if Ukraine can get them down without losing anyone, it becomes less of a man advantage. If they can do that again on the northern group, maybe it can be an even game again. But it just seems like I think maybe Turkey's recognized that. Yeah, they're going to back off, try and regroup, and move into specific positions and just stack up.
And that's one of the things that's so big to me, how quickly Turkey is to react. It's not like you have the 5 players that are better than the rest of the team, therefore they tend to react faster, but the team isn't really there. It's like Turkey is one big cohesive, like it's one big unit that it just works. It's like it's one guy who's controlling all the PCs. And like the reaction is just instant across the board for all of them, which I think is pretty damn impressive.
Turkey are the Matrix, confirmed.
Something like that. Something like that. No, I just think it's amazing how we, like, just when we start discussing this is what they should do or whatnot, you see them do it instantly where other teams should go, guys, you gotta get going, and then they're too late to the race. Right here, Turkey, they're always extremely fast and reactive.
I think that's a credit more to the fact that all of the players know what they're doing. Because realistically, if you have that one guy that's having to make every decision for the team, inevitably he's going to forget about, Group 7 that's out on the northwest, hiding in a little compound. He's going to forget that they're there, or he's going to overlook it when he's talking about something else. So the fact that I think all the players sort of know the strategy, know what they need to do in the game, means that they can sort of preempt the sort of the overall strategy that their RGL will bring and just do it themselves. And that's exactly what they've done now. We see this pretty much front line, going north to south, right across the center of the map, locking Ukraine on the west, and realistically locking Ukraine out of the strong positions in this circle.
So, Youth is looking over the top, has found a kill already. They're up by 12, and I feel like this is just a case of delaying the inevitable. I'm not seeing how Ukraine turns this around. Again, they need circles to really center into that compound, and even then, I just feel like Turkey has what it takes to run them, and it feels so far-fetched for me to say it's when it's Ukraine we're talking about, because they're so damn talented. Turkey is just so scary in this moment.
Secreted's looking for a bit of a sneak attack here, but this is what Turkey don't want to be doing. They don't want to be sending these individual players in to do some Hail Mary plays. Because if they start to do that, if the man advantage goes from 12 to, I don't know, 5 or 6, I think Ukraine has the individual strength, the individual manpower to actually overturn that kind of deficit. Yeah. So they need to make sure that they're always taking not necessarily favorable gunfights, but equal gunfights where they're sort of trading, 1 for 1 here or there. If they lose a player, make sure they kill a player as well, and then they'll just trade away to a win.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I think there's one thing that really differs in Nations Royale to normal PUBG is normal PUBG, you're trying to get to the end. Your only goal was to get to phase 8 or phase 9. In this, if you're at a disadvantage, you want to take a gunfight earlier rather than later. You want to take a gunfight when you're in control of it rather than when you're forced to take it. Because the longer it gets and the more control the main team, the team with the advantage can get. I mean, Turkey hasn't lost a player yet, and we're in phase 5. But the longer it goes, the more they can just start doing this, where they can just shut down Ukraine. That kill feed is all Turkish right now.
See, Turkey, and then about to get the run over. That's all they got going for them right now, which is not a whole lot. Oh my lord, they continue. Ukraine had to go somewhere. Now they have found the granny compound. They're down in the scrapyard, but here comes Turkey.
Turkey have lost 1 player. 31 v8. I don't see another Turkish player going down at this rate. It's an absolute slaughter, a massacre in Severny right now. Ukraine are just getting ripped apart by Jesus Christ. What a win for Turkey. 31-0. They lost 1 player. And it was to a car.
1 player who got
to a car as well. It wasn't even a gunfight. Ukraine lost every gunfight in that game. That is ridiculous. And
that's insane.
If that's a sign of things to come, any other team in this tournament has to be terrified.
Is that the 3-0 we're looking at? Potentially. Now, I don't know why my face is so blurry. According to Discord, my webcam feed is pretty decent quality, so I don't know what's happening. Either way,
production.
That was it's production's fault. It's always production. I'm not sure what to say after that one. I mean, it was again a case of circles were pretty even, to be fair. I mean, we saw Ukraine. They had the circle to begin with. They had that little extra amount of time to figure out what they wanted to do, because Turkey all had to move up from the south side. But as I was saying, will it be an advantage? not necessarily, because Turkey tends to just come and take what they want, and as you can see right here, that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, and it kind of felt like Ukraine were delaying the inevitable, right? Once we saw this compound, I think the failure of that crash in it, where they lost, I think, 5 or 6 players, and the deficit really started to open up. They sort of backed off and they just sat in those 2 compounds. And then when they got forced out, they had nowhere to go. They had no control over the rest of the circle. They had no position that they could move into and at least take a gunfire from there. And then they just had to go to a crash that just did not work. And I don't know if all time that was the record, but at least in Nations Royale Season 3, that was the most one-sided match we've had.
I think so too. That was impressive to watch, given how good both these teams are. We're not expecting Turkey to win a match with just losing a single player. Guys, we're going to go take a short break. We'll be back and ready for Miramar. Just a few, so stick around. We'll see you in just a moment. Welcome back, everyone, to Nations Royale, brought to you by GLL. I'm Toby, joined by Saint, and I'm blurry, and Saint is all 1080 crisp. It's just how it is, apparently, today. I don't know if it's on my end or what it is, but this is me. You all know how pretty I am. They're just trying to make it fair for Saint, so that we can be equally gorgeous looking. Either way, jokes aside, you were saying before, Saint, that if this is the speed at which games will end in favor of Turkey, we might be in for a short evening. I feel like that might be the case, because that was one of the biggest slaughters I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think they've recognized that I've got something I want to watch later. So they're trying to speed up the night for me, which is very nice of them. It feels like Ukraine haven't actually turned up to the server yet. But the car that they were driving did, but none of their guns did. So that was a
nice overlay there. A little...
That was me at my best right there.
Oh, that's what it was. Now that my camera was blurred, might as well just not show our faces at all. So that's your kills after game 1. Ketpa was able to find 5, and he buckled. He found 1. That's decent. He's the top fragger of Ukraine.
He's infinitely better than the rest of his teammates.
His car is top fragging anyway.
Yeah, I don't even know if he was in the car. I think he jumped out, because I think he actually got knocked before he killed the guy.
Yeah, it could have been.
So there's not really much you can say about that game, other than I think that was just a testament of how ridiculous Turkey are at this game mode. I don't know specifically why they're so incredible. I mean, we said that they were, in terms of their overall level, that they're incredible, but. Are they really that good that a team like Ukraine can't get a kill against them?
I wouldn't expect so, but I guess we'll get to find out now that we're headed on over to Miramar. Again, I'm curious to see how the teams will split out in the early stages in terms of landing and where they go. Seems like not all of Ukraine's out yet. I feel like we're hitting a point, though, at which all of them will be out. They'll be focusing on the southwest side, and it seems to me like the majority of the Turkish players will head on over towards the east.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting area of the map, really, to go for as Ukraine, taking this sort of, locking yourself almost in the southwest. I expect they've got Pozo at least, so they have a route to the north. But if we talk about circles we've seen in Nations Royale, we've seen a lot of eastern circles, a lot of, Puerto Paraiso, that sort of region of the map. We've seen, I think, some around Azahar and the odd one in the north, but realistically, we haven't really seen that many southwests. We've seen 1 or 2 maybe. So it kind of feels like they're really limiting their options when it comes to making it into a circle, unless they get it. But they got the circle last time and they only got 1 kill out of it. So
yeah,
I don't know if maybe they're preferring not having the circle. I think that's something we saw in the past. Right? We saw Ukraine where they always wanted to be crashing things. So maybe it was oops.
It's a Ukrainian circle.
Did I curse them? I think I cursed them.
I don't know. But okay, so last time around, they allowed for the Turkish team to kind of come in from the northeastern side over Stalba, and they just pushed down and killed them. This time around, I would say the terrain is much more in their favor. At least the terrain is more in their favor in terms of potentially keeping out the Turkish players, or at least knowing where they're headed and where they'll be coming from, because they will have all the opportunities in the world to take full high ground control in this circle.
And I think those areas just to the south of Monte Nuevo are going to be quite influential on this circle. I call it the Amakin compound, just because we've seen the Zuktin-Darm, M47 Amakin roster take that. The one that's right on the, like on a little point on the hill.
Yeah,
they seem to love that compound. It does really well for them. But I think that's a place Ukraine should stack a fair few players around because it has a lot of control of the region around. But also taking that hill to the south of Monte Nuevo is going to be quite strong, I think. With the silos, you get a lot of vision. It's not a position that you expect late game is going to be in the circle, but it's a position you can use to move around the map to pick off those one or two players they try to rotate in, and really start to emphasize your presence on the map.
So we're having a look over Monte and Minas. I was actually surprised to see how early Turkey moved out last game, whereas I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe take a little longer this time around, just because you'd expect that they really want to be sure of where they're going, because it's going to be a pretty tough area of the map to have to push into.
Yeah, and I think you sort of normally what you see one team has the circle and the other one goes, well, we know they're going to be in the middle. We know they're going to have all control of the area, so we might as well just get every gun we want. Might as well stack up on meds, get the right amount of utility, and then just come in with the guns we like. Getting your favorable AR, I think is a really in terms of the early game is actually really important. I think it's underestimated how important it is, getting the guns you favor. So being that team that's not in the circle sometimes allows you almost to set up better for those late game fights because you can get the guns you like, you can get the utility you want. So yeah, I expect Turkey are going to take a bit longer, make sure they've got all they want. And realistically, I think on Miramar and Erangel, we normally see, I think it's like phase 3 to 5 is the important area. Right? Phase 1, phase 2 is a bit of posturing. Occasionally you see a couple kills. I think we saw last game there was 5, I think, by the end of phase 2. But it's really that phase 3 rotation is important for deciding where the gunfight is. And then phase 4, phase 5 is when we see that explosion.
So what you're saying is that you don't think this game is going to be over before phase 5? Is that how I can very, very read only sentences of what you just said there? Like, modern journalism, we make sentences that I like here. That's how it works.
I think if we speak about the circle that the game has ended in most in Nations Royale, it's probably either phase 5 or phase 6. It's very rare that we get beyond that, unless you have that one snake that goes and hides somewhere. I think I remember a Sanok game in Asia where we got to phase 7 because one guy was alive hiding in the bush.
I'm going to go out on the limb and call for a phase 4 finish.
That's bold. I'll take it, Turkey, right?
Oh, yeah. It's, yeah.
You think Turkey gonna smoke him again?
No, I don't know. I mean, even though I think overall the better team of the two here is Turkey, I feel like the positioning right now, at least, that Ukraine has is good enough that they should be able to bring home a if not a win in this one, then make it a closer fight. I just think there's so much open space in this circle that the fight will have to happen earlier.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much impossible to have a worse game than what we just saw. So
yeah, true. That's also a good point.
I mean, maybe they can match the performance from game 1, but
there's a chance.
With what you said, I expect we'll see a slightly better one. At least maybe get 2 kills. But I mean, we were coming into this saying it should be a close game. I do still think that even though there was such a blowout map 1, that Ukraine, as you were saying, does have the ability to turn this into a close series. But I mean, as I said before map 1, that I think 1, 2, and 5 are the important maps for Ukraine because they're the ones where I think it suits their playstyle the most in terms of the way they like to play. Vikendi and Sanok, I think, suit Turkey a little bit more because Sanok is all about having your entire team get involved in one gunfight, which Turkey is brilliant at. Vikendi is about crashing compounds, which I think, again, Turkey's really good at. So I wanted to see, the 1-2-5 from Ukraine. And I kind of feel like if they don't win this map, it's going to be a 3-0.
So that leaves us with the question, what is Turkey not good at?
Can I say nothing?
You can.
Am I allowed to say that?
That's your thought.
This might be a controversial opinion.
There's no weak points in the Turkish...
Well, we say that the whole roster is pretty stacked, but I also think they've got the best player in the world in Iro on the team, or at least the best player in Europe.
True.
I think it's definitely up for debate, but he's definitely top 5, I'd say. And so, even though we're talking about the individual skill of like the Ukrainian team, Turkey has that as well. they also have what we've seen is pretty incredible teamwork. They have 32 players that are incredible in a gunfight. They're pretty much as close as you can get to a perfect team, I think, in Nations Royale.
Scary.
And I think Ukraine would actually do really well just to take a map. Like that's how strong I think Turkey is. But I do think it's possible. And I think here they've got the positioning right now that Ukraine are definitely, if you didn't know who were on either team, you'd say in this match Ukraine are in the driving seat in terms of positioning. They have that silo control that I said would be fairly strong. And the circle has centered up around Monty, which is where that position especially becomes even stronger than it was before. They are allowing Turkey into the city, which I don't really like, but they couldn't really stop it. So
I was thinking about that too. It's like, guys, do you remember what happened last game when you allowed Turkey to push forward? I'm not sure I like this idea. They should have maybe tried to fortify it more. But then again, I mean, if they want to be able to pick and choose their battles, maybe overcommitting to try and keep a city that might not have much impact on an endgame fight is a bad idea anyway.
And but I think if we look at this circle and you think, where does it usually end? You're looking at sort of the north edge of Monty, right, in that field. I think
so, yeah.
Generally speaking, that's where the circle goes. And there's that question of, would you rather have the high ground now, or would you rather have the area around where the circle should end? Because I think Turkey are almost relying on that ending. But if they can set up, such a great defensive line in the city, the Ukraine can't get into phase 4, phase 5, and just get locked down on the south. It gets really risky. But this position up here on the silos, you see how much vision they have of the map. You can see, I think, from here where Turkey are and aren't.
Like, you can pretty much see the entire circle.
So it's in terms of using it to strategize, to work out where you need to go next, I think it's a really strong spot. But there is that risk of, how do you get to the place where you're going to go next? Because if Turkey's control of the whole north side, then you go there, he didn't quite get the kill. That's
would have wanted that.
They're just. I think that right there summed up match one. That was epitome. There we go. They've got it.
There you go. They've already found as many kills as they did the entire last game. That's that's so. I don't want to jinx it. They did.
Someone just runs
they've evened out the kill count they had in the previous game. I think that's. I feel like that's pretty impressive. Not gonna lie.
Well, I mean, it's a start. It
is indeed. They're ahead for the first time, so that's something.
Code Marco answering back onto Orange.
Oh, I said that too soon.
Where is he? Oh, he does get flushed. I thought he was up on the hill, so I didn't think he'd get flushed. But
wait, are they gonna get 2 kills in one game? What? I'm being toxic now. Sorry, Ukraine. I mean, again, Ukraine is an amazing team, and a lot of the players on the team are incredibly talented. It's just I can't help but be, I guess mildly, what do you call it? Both entertained, but also, what's the word for it? Scared of this Turkish roster.
I think you can be nervous for Ukraine in terms of their long-term.
Yeah, exactly. That wasn't really the word I was looking for, but it explains the same sentence.
Does the job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this and we're thinking, I think we have to be thinking this should go north. I mean, occasionally get west.
I mean, we say woulda, shoulda, coulda. There's no shifting away from anything.
Yeah, in theory.
In theory. We'll see. We'll see.
I'm still very skeptical about how random PUBG circles actually are. I do think there are hidden tendencies towards fields and cross the game seems to like. But we have seen in the past Western endings. I've personally played in a city ending in Monty in a tournament before. So there is precedent.
Wait, up north we go, and all of a sudden you have 3 Ukrainian players inside the circle. That is. Did we talk about not giving up the city? I don't remember. It's so long ago. Oh wait, no, we did.
We said how good the side is worth a vision. There is an opportunity here where they can spot out that the west side is relatively empty. And they can push up towards the God building, as we call it.
Yep.
So maybe there's an opportunity through there, but it kind of feels like right now they're sort of posturing to just make a big push through the center of the city. And given the strength of the Turkish roster in that region of the map, I'm a little bit nervous for Ukraine right now.
I would be as well. It's it doesn't look good now. Arch fallen. That's unfortunate. She created this there trying to hold off. There's a bit of a rescue team coming in. And well, right now it's working, but for how much longer will it continue to do that?
But this is where She Created was sort of the point of a very big spear, right? I mean, you look behind him, how many players are just to the north. So once he gets onto this wall now, it's very hard for Ukraine to do anything about it. And as long as he doesn't get knocked, he can just start to annoy this team. And he can just sit here and just piss them off, basically, for about 20, 30 seconds. This nade might be good for a kill.
By himself for now. There are teammates coming over to try and help Scream. We see fall down now as well. There are players falling, and it's all once again Ukrainian players have fallen down to the Turkish. And you can just see, I mean, what worked as their advantage in terms of high ground and vision before, because they had to push down, it now works completely against them.
But look at that teamwork there. She Created had Spiro just above him, trying to kill him, and the people on the hill just traded out. She Created finally goes down. But I mean, the amount, how annoying he was in this compound. Yeah, he wasn't actually doing that much, but they had to commit so many players to try and kill him. They kept walking out in the open, and then the players on the Eastern Hill just picked them apart. And now you've got, I think, 5 or 6 Ukrainian players knocked there. Yes, the res is might come in, but the damage Turkey has done is irreparable.
Yeah, let's see that nade. It's gonna go a bit far. Indeed, it is. Does bounce off, but look at the amount of dead or down players inside this. This is like the new nursery in PUBG, because there are so damn many players on their knees.
Yeah, and they just keep getting knocked. Yeah, I mean, they didn't really use their high ground to work out the chinks in the armor. They just walked in a straight line, and realistically, they've run straight into the main defensive force for Turkey now. And I just don't see a way for them to get north. I mean, how do they get to that field from here?
I'm, to be fair, not quite sure.
I think the answer is they don't.
Yeah, that's that might be the case. Maybe they just don't. I want them to. I want this to be a good even fight, but I just, with the way that Turkey are playing this, I just don't see it happening. I mean, the numbers were even for a little while. Now they've shifted massively in their favor.
It just feels like every time the Ukrainian players are not necessarily playing on their own, but they're not quite synergized as a team. Whereas Turkey, they always have these overwatching players that are supporting the little groups, the little, like we had with She Created, where he was on his own, but there were like 10 players supporting him by just watching over, and no one could really push him or do anything. So he had so much liberty to do damage to the Ukrainian roster. And once they sort of got stuck in that house. Once, I think it was 8 or 9 players stuck in that one position, they had nowhere to go.
I think one of the main issues for some of these, you would think, better teams like Ukraine, like Finland, rosters that have really good individual skill. In the earlier rounds of the tournament, that's kind of what they rely on, which makes good sense. I mean, yes, we'll go out and do our own thing for a little while because we can. I mean, we are a bunch of very highly skilled PUBG players, and we can kind of just we win our individual battles, and that gets us to where and what we want. But now we're at a point in the tournament where it's not just your individual skills that matter anymore. It's a lot more than that, and arguably other stuff matters more than that. So now when you go up against a team like Turkey, you might not see them as a big threat in terms of, but we have this guy on the team and they only have that guy, and we have this guy and they only have that guy. But it's the teamwork, and look at this, Ukraine finally starting to turn things around, but it might be too late.
There's a little bit of a resurgence, but at this point, each player needs to get 2 or 3 kills, just to make it an even game. So it's just become a point where it's almost unassailable for Ukrainians. They have to do so much work as individuals, and when you run into 3 or 4 players as a solo, I mean, if we look at like competitive, it's so rare you see a 1v3 and 1v4. I mean, how do you win a 1v6?
Yeah, it's are we back to the whole, well, you don't, ow, I think we are. That's a headshot nade.
This is like
coming in there. A lot of damage done. Perfectix trying to do everything he can to stay put. Now Konetkot goes down, or Kotzenok goes down to the circle. That's unfortunate, and I'm afraid Perfectix might fall just a moment here as well. Perfectix is still alive. He's up for now. Pants are flying all over the place. 10,000 days will get flushed. Not that it matters all that much, though, because they're just 2 now. This is what Iro is pan out. And it ain't gonna matter. He goes down in the end. Just B20 finds the kill, and that, my friends, is gonna make it 2-0 in favor of Turkey for what, again, not as much of a landslide as last game was, to be fair, but a pretty damn convincing victory nonetheless.
And I don't think the scoreboard quite tells the whole story, though. I mean, I think once we had that golden shift that we were expecting, it was sort of a when will Turkey win rather than if will Turkey win, because they had so much control of that area. And there was that opportunity, I think, where if Ukraine could have gone west, maybe they could have wrapped around the Turkish defensive line.
True.
And got towards the center of the map and at least progressed to a later position with a more equal game. But once they got stuck in this house, I think the game was pretty much over.
Yeah, and I must say I was a little surprised to see that they, given how much time they had with the high ground vision and supposedly how much time they had to kind of come up with a plan, that was their decision to just push straight down the hill and run into the face of the opponents.
I think I remember it was the Hungarian general that said that they'd learned from Ukraine and Russia to just press W. But maybe they were learning the wrong lessons there, because it really did not work out for Ukraine that game.
No, sure as hell didn't. They tried. They made their way down the hill, but there was already a party waiting for them at the end of that hillside. That was 2-0. We could potentially be going into the final map of these upper bracket finals now. We'll know if we are in just a moment, because we're heading on to a break, and then we'll be ready with game number 3 over in Sanok in just a moment. Welcome back, everyone. We are just moments away from getting the third game started, what could potentially be the third and final game of this match, because Turkey has now twice in a row pretty dominantly taken home victories against Ukraine. And to be fair, I mean, as much as Sanok could potentially be the upset map, I feel like Sanok just kind of plays in their favor and kind of supports the style that Turkey tries to bring forward.
Yeah, I think across Nations Royale, we've seen that the maps go in one of 3 directions. You have Erangel and Miramar, which is generally favored around the high ground, which you use to scout, to plan and to strategize your way into the later circles. On Vikendi, it's all about those compounds, about taking the strong positions of the map and just stacking them and going for that big gunfight later on. Sanok, nothing happens to the first 3 circles, and then you just have a 30 versus 30 gunfight in phase 4. And I think that kind of strategy just suits the Turkish team down to the core, because every player on that team can have an impact. I mean, only 4 of them are yet to frag. And you look at those 4, you've got a Digital Athletics player, an Istanbul Wildcats player, 2 players who are pretty well established in the scene.
I mean, the fact that She Created didn't get a single kill last game was actually a little surprising to me. That was the player sitting in that house, kind of holding off the entire Ukrainian team. But then again, we saw 4 or 5 knocks, and all of them were getting back on their feet. I feel like She Created got scammed for a few kills there.
Yeah, I think we talk about players having impact, right? You don't necessarily need to get a kill to have impact in this game. And right there, She Created was perfect bait, absolutely perfect, textbook, I'd almost say, because whilst he was there, yes, as we see, he didn't get a kill. But his team, I think, killed 7 or 8 players on that house just because he was pissing them off so much by just running around that wall. I mean, I remember, I think Spiro peeked above him from the death zone, whatever it's called, the bowl. He peeked from the side and instantly gets killed from the hilltop because everyone was supporting She Created and playing around him. So the fact that every player really on this Turkish roster is having an impact is why I think we're coming into this game expecting a 3-0.
Let's see Ukraine. They landing on the northeast side. And, well, I mean, there could be turnaround. Look at this. I mean, the Boom and everyone, they've spun around. They were going down towards the south, and they've all just turned around because they see a massive chunk of Turkish players up towards the Paradise area. Now, there you go. Zoom first one to fall, going in favor of Turkey. But there's still a lot of Ukrainian players around in here who could potentially upset.
There's precedent for this. Ukraine took a fight in Paradise against Netherlands, if you remember, where the Netherlands started flooding in sort of 4x4, and the smaller Ukrainian group in the middle just started shutting them down. It kind of feels like maybe there's a bit of a reversal of fortunes where the Ukrainian players are getting shut down. We see already 4 go down, make that 5 untraded from Turkey. And if Ukraine continues to commit to this without stacking up as a big group and returning the favor, it's going to become a big man advantage early on.
That is unfortunate. Ruin shoots a teammate. Maybe that's what they need in order to win. Have them kill their teammates. Just infiltrate the enemy line from a mental perspective, and then have them start slaughtering one another.
Oh, but once again, the Turkish roster is trading so well. I mean, yes, they've lost one player, but they've got 6 down in return. J3 now, I think, is the last one up here. Now, he's got one teammate left, but realistically, there's not much they can do. As long as he can get a couple flushes, it's not going to be the end of the world. Did he even get the... Yeah, he
did get one. He did get one.
Okay. But he gets traded instantly. And what, we're going to have a 6-man advantage, possibly 7. And yes, now the Ukrainian reinforcements are coming in, but if we go back to that Ukraine versus Netherlands game, Ukraine got shut down.
See, well, that's a strategy. Prone it out, see what's going to happen. Doxer is up above.
He knows he's there, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, I must have heard him before. Oh, no. Did you see him? Yes, now he does. Now he falls down, too. But I feel like there's enough Turkish players around to, to find him. So, what we were saying was... is that we're in a situation now where Ukraine is in a backs against the wall. They need to bring this one home right now in order to win it. They're down by now, make that 6 players, about to be 7, I believe. Yes, 7-player deficit. What do they do?
I mean, this is where the reinforcements are coming in one by one. You know, what they need to do is they need to wait, and they need to come in as 10, maybe 15. Turkey's just committed to this and just wiping out those players that are slowly coming in, and they're just feeding Turkey the man advantage now. 9 already. I mean, we've been playing for like, what, 3 minutes? 4 minutes?
Yeah. It's not looking good.
No. He didn't even...
This is looking like a desperation throw from Ukraine's side of things. No technical difficulties here. We just
an insight into the strategic department of Ukraine. Rather.
Oh, that's maybe what it is. Discord went down in Ukraine, therefore communication hasn't been on point. No, I mean, we can't really blame it on any one thing in particular. The only thing I feel like we can say of this is that Turkey is a damn good team.
Yeah, I mean, I said sound like usually nothing happens 3 circles, then it all goes down in phase 4. I think they forgot what circle we're in. And they've ruined my pre-game analysis by just taking a gunfight, and it's looking rough for Ukraine. Rather, I mean, already a 10-man advantage. Realistically, you're just delaying the inevitable. If you can survive into phase 2, there's not much you can do when you're that far down, unless someone goes off, unless someone does something incredible. And from what we've seen so far, I don't think there's a player in the Ukrainian team that's going to do that.
I'm unsure as to what they can do here as well. I mean, I said last game that it was going to end in phase potentially 4. I actually didn't see which phase it ended in. This game is going to end in phase 1.
Yeah. I mean, the only way it doesn't end in phase 1 now is if one Ukrainian guy just runs off and hides, because it kind of feels like if we see on the mini-map on the bottom right, Ukraine's just coming in, just joining in the party, getting it over with. Maybe realistically, what do you do when you're this far down?
Are we actually looking at a phase 1 finish? A sub 6-minute end of the game? That's gotta be some sort of record.
Are we playing a different game mode?
I mean, it's gotta be some sort of record.
I mean, it's over. Like it
is. I mean, you can see they're just running up to die now because they've realized that they're not winning. I've never seen this before. 5 minutes before 6-minute finish to a game.
I want the solo player on the south now to just go hide for as long as
just run away and see how much screen time you can earn yourself. This is going to come to an end as arguably the biggest shootout I've ever seen in this tournament format. Are we going to finish within 6 minutes? Oh.
No.
No. We're not. Just over 6 minutes. I mean, there are a lot of kills coming in now, to be fair.
Turkey's, I think, trying to kill each other. I mean, the 1v23, 1v24? Is it
I mean, it's good now. Just wait it out. Let them kill each other. Make it a fair 1v1 with pants in the middle. Oh, there's one kill. Now they've seen the kill feed, there's an opponent shooting.
They're still killing each other.
Oh, I guess so.
What's going on? I mean, it's a 1v10. This would technically be the biggest comeback we've ever had. Imagine if he actually wins this.
He actually wins this game.
But look how low they are. I mean, there's only 3 players up for Turkey. All low HP. No way is this going to happen. Question. Did you just shoot a tree and get a knock? On our screen.
I'm not sure what's happening here. I think there was a little bit of a camera issue. Focus. They've made it doable, but it still isn't going to be enough. Turkey. I thought we were going to go into yet another store. That's literally called playing with your food there, if that's what they were planning on doing. Turkey takes home yet another win, which, okay, so on paper, it's a 8 players alive win. I feel like it was more of a 28, 29 player alive because, once again, very one-sided. We have been broadcasting to you guys for 1 hour and 5 minutes, and during that time, we've had breaks, we have had intros, we have had bumpers, and we've also had 3 games go in favor of Turkey, which is going to round out our first match of the day.
Yeah, I mean, how do you even analyze that? Like, what do you say? Turkey's just so much better in a gunfight. And I think that's a testament to how strong they are as a team. You know, I mean, how stacked they are across the whole roster. Because we just saw that every 1v1 that happened, bar the odd like 1 or 2, was just in favor of Turkey, right? I mean, every time there was a straight 1v1, Turkey won. Even at the end, when Turkey was shooting their own team, there were straight 1v1s and Turkey was still winning. So.
Absolutely wild. I am unsure if I've ever seen a game that didn't include forfeited matches. If I've ever seen a Nations Royale BO5 end this quickly before. I don't feel like I have. Maybe that's a sign for things to come. I don't know. Turkey seems to be on a whole other level right now. Let's take a look at the bracket and see where that puts them on the overall look of things. They have made their way to the EMEA finals. And as you can see, Ukraine will be playing tomorrow against the winner of the lower bracket finals. So they will have another chance of going up against Turkey again. But I gotta say, I mean, even if they win that match, do they want to play against Turkey again?
Just go and forfeit it.
Like, nope.
But if you look at the lower bracket, like, who are you thinking of those 4 teams is a challenger that can defeat Turkey? Like,
I mean, Russia get 3-0'd by Turkey, but I feel like, now again, we didn't see the match itself, so there could have been games that were really close, or maybe some circles were really favoring Turkey. I feel like Russia is not the team with the best chance. I want to say the only team with a chance to even get maps against Turkey at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to make a prediction right now and say Turkey doesn't lose a map in the final. Whoever they play, I don't think there's a team that can beat them right now. But later on, we're going to see who that team is going to be. And I mean, there is an opportunity, you know, maybe a big upset happens.
You never know. There are many ways things can go. Maybe Ukraine was just having an off day. Who knows? We don't, at least, because it looked like a pretty one-sided affair. Guys, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back and ready with more matches coming your way. When it's going to start exactly, I can't tell you right now, because this game ended as fast as it did. So there might be a bit of a longer break, but do us a favor. Stick around, and we'll be back and ready with the lower bracket matches coming your way real soon.